A vaporizer, marijuana has been rebranded as a natural herbal therapy packed with healing power.
The patient has had long-standing lower back discomfort.
After 25 years as a physician, Boland is now sold on the medical benefits of pot.
How long have you believed in marijuana as something that can combat pain?
Probably about 2 or 3 years. It wasn't until I came upon some occupational medicine patients that had just absolutely intractable back pain, and lo and behold, they said it helped them. Their request for increasing doses of narcotics started to level off. You get any funny feeling tingling in the fingers when I do that?
Doctors can't prescribe marijuana because it's classified as a Schedule I drug, like LSD, but they can recommend it. And for patients, that's the key to getting a medical marijuana license.
And that'll be $130.
It's a profitable business. Boland and the team here at Relaxed Clarity have brought in more than $1 million in just their first year.
Free optional high five. Congratulations.
They've given some 10,000 patients the go-ahead to buy pot.
I want you to look at the camera, and I want you to say cannabis. 1, 2, 3.
Cannabis.
What happens once everybody gets their recommendation? What do you do then?
Well, that's the beautiful thing about this program. From a business perspective, everybody renews every year, and they have to get the same reevaluation that they did initially.
Oh, so you're going to have a steady clientele potentially for years.
That's correct. It's just like getting a haircut. A month or so from now, you're going to need another one. Go make us proud, and we'll see you next year.
Thank you.
Okay?
Critics call it medical excuse marijuana.
Try the strawberry coffee.
Yeah?
And say it's just a cover for potheads looking for a license to get stoned.
Some people say you're running a prescription mill.
I would dispute that characterization. We examine every patient. We look at medical records when we can get them. I apply the same observation, the same rationale that I would in any decision that I would make medically.
During our visits to the clinic, we noticed that Boland signed off on nearly everyone who walked through the door.
Okay.
We saw just one patient get rejected.
Who was your orthopedic doctor? Do you remember? God, I do not remember. The state's pretty strict about making sure that we have some real hard, fast, specific findings.
Do you ever get people in here that you clearly know just want this for recreational purposes?
Yes, we do, and we deny those people. I should write a book one day about some of the things that I've seen.
I mean, will they be that blatant? Will they say, you know, hey doc, I need a recommendation for this. Come on, just give it to me.
Yes, there have been a few people that have come in saying that, or somebody who says I have back pain or my knees hurt, and then they make this aerobatic pirouette up onto the exam table.
Do you have any other questions?
Some may dismiss the legitimacy of medical marijuana, but patients like Scott Snuffer do not. He's been living with a rare blood disorder. Recent surgeries and infections related to the disease have left him with a distended abdomen and in severe pain. He wasn't satisfied with the prescriptions his doctors had to offer.
What kind of pain pills were they giving you?
Vicodin, OxyContin, morphine at one time I had liquid morphine that they had given me that was very strong but worked for like a half an hour and then it would wear off.
So these weren't helping you with your pain?
They weren't helping me. They weren't helping long term. I'd feel good for about an hour, then I'd start hurting again, and then when the 2 hours came, I was like, I gotta have more. I need some more. And I was starting to get scared that I was getting addicted, but I was also just scared because I was in pain 24/7.
Not only would the relief wear off quickly, the drugs had intense side effects, including hallucinations. When that became unbearable, Snoffer decided to look for relief at the end of a pipe.
Has it helped?
It's helped greatly. And with the medical marijuana, you take a hit of it, and within anywhere from 10 seconds to 5 minutes, you're starting to feel, okay, I hurt, but I really don't care that I hurt. It's not that big of a deal.
Snoffer now takes fewer pain pills, and he can do some things he couldn't do before, like cheering on his son Quentin. Quentin and his brother Easton say marijuana has helped their dad.
Sorry. Has the marijuana made that big a difference?
It really has. He's more with it. He knows what's going on, and we can talk to him now.
Yeah.
He finishes his sentences.
See, your dad's more like your dad.
Yeah. He's back.
It's stories like these, advocates say, that make the case for medical marijuana. But among scientists, it's much more controversial.
I am actually very excited about the components to marijuana as potential medicines, but it has to be data-driven. It can't be anecdote.
Meg Haney, a professor at Columbia Medical School, directs a marijuana research lab. She says the jury is still out.
So many people swear by marijuana. They say this is the best medicine for them.
Clearly, I have empathy for people who are suffering, and I understand that for them marijuana is quite effective. But there's a process within the FDA in which we compare a drug to a placebo, and we determine that it works. So people who say marijuana is going to be effective where there is no evidence makes me very uncomfortable.
Here's what scientists do know. When someone uses marijuana, the chemicals inside the plant called cannabinoids bind to cell receptors in the brain. They cause the release of dopamine, which is what gets people high. But they also affect functions like problem solving, appetite, pain response, and muscle movement. In her research, Meg Haney confirmed what many know from personal experience, that THC, the chemical compound in marijuana, can increase appetite and relieve nausea.
How much pain you're experiencing.
Other scientists see strong potential for treating neuropathic pain and muscle spasms. While Haney recognizes the drug's medicinal promise, she warns of the small but real risk of dependency and the harmful effects smoking has on the lungs. She cautions against its widespread use as a cure-all.
Marijuana has essentially been rebranded as the new herbal medication. Do you buy into that at all?
Well, actually, herbal medications also make me uncomfortable because they also are absent in data. So what people don't realize is that the scientific investigation of cannabinoids is really very young. We don't really know enough under very carefully controlled conditions. The potential medical benefits.
Large-scale clinical evidence is years away.
Inhale for 5 seconds.
Research has been hindered, advocates say, by federal restrictions.
And how much pain are you in right now?
Breath here.
In the meantime, Boland and the 1,200 or so physicians in Colorado recommending marijuana are in uncharted territory, caught between conflicting state and federal laws.
All right, be safe now.
You're in this real kind of no man's land where there's some regulation, but not a lot of regulation. And the medical community doesn't thoroughly recognize this.
You're definitely walking a little bit of a tightrope and sailing between a lot of reefs by doing this, yes. But there are a lot of patients for whom this is the last best hope for a quality life.
Whether medical marijuana is real or a ruse, it has taken root across the country. But some states are having no part of it.
I look out west, and my fear is if we ever give up any ground, are we going to be battling that here in Kentucky? Are we going to be running gun battles over marijuana?
A trek to Appalachia when Marijuana USA returns. This is cannabis country. Down below, hidden in the wilderness of Kentucky's Appalachian Mountains, are gardens of marijuana worth at least $1 billion, all of it illegal. There may be a growing acceptance of marijuana across the country, but not here in Kentucky, where a small army refuses to go down without a fight.
They went up through there, didn't they? I'd say it's probably it for us.
Lieutenant Brent Roper is the commander of Kentucky's Marijuana Strike Force. He leads 120 men and women from state and federal agencies as they hike up and down plunging hills. They work in 95-degree heat and extreme humidity, combating the relentless onslaught of weed.
We have a pill problem, a meth problem. We've got other drug problems, just like everybody else does. But ours in Kentucky have one thing all in common, and that is marijuana is supporting all these other drugs because it is the most profitable. When you're getting $3,000 a pound for marijuana, now you see where the money's at.
Lieutenant Roper was raised in eastern Kentucky and knows that pot has always been part of the culture here.
traditionally, it has always been, the cash crop in Kentucky. And I can always remember, how readily available marijuana was at that age growing up, and that it was probably easier to get than a pack of cigarettes.
In 1972, when Roper was a child and the counterculture was in full bloom, a commission appointed by President Nixon studied the marijuana question.
If a person does, by any chance, use it, that person should not be stigmatized with a criminal sanction.
Nixon rejected the recommendation to decriminalize marijuana and instead declared a war on drugs.
It is necessary to wage a new all-out offensive.
The federal government's 40-year campaign against marijuana continues today. There's no easy accounting for this illicit trade, but seizure records indicate that cultivation has spread to all 50 states. The U.S. is now among the world's leading producers of pot. Kentucky's marijuana production is estimated to be worth at least 3 times the value of its tobacco crop. And so far, demand for the plant has outstripped the ability of law enforcement to snuff it out. But they try. Their mission starts up here, as hawk-eyed spotters and DEA choppers scour the ground below.
Yeah, there's one right here under us, right in here.
Typical plots used to have as many as 1,000 plants, but those are too easy to spot from the air. Now, growers have as few as 5 plants in many more plots, which helps them avoid detection sometimes.
There's some right under, something right.
Okay. If they haven't started budding yet, we'll do this. Chop it up in as many pieces as we can, make sure the root system's gone, toss it out through here.
Growers can and do resort to violence to protect their crop. Many use firearms, explosives, and booby traps. These nail-studded boards are intended to pierce the feet of intruders.
See, they've been covered up with leaves.
How do you figure out who the marijuana belongs to?
Time and effort. Local law enforcement here as well, so-and-so we've heard may be growing some marijuana in this particular area. And then it's just a lot of man hours dedicated to going in, doing surveillance.
A cornerstone of Kentucky's Get Tough strategy is a federal initiative to arrest, convict, and punish the biggest growers and discourage the rest.
I mean, there's always going to be somebody out there who's going to take the risk to try to grow it. What we want to do is get to a point where the risk, is outweighed by the consequences of what happens if you get caught.
With jobs disappearing in the coal mining and tobacco industries and 1 out of 5 people here living below the poverty line, there are those willing to take that risk. For John, who asked that we use only his first name, life hasn't been easy.
There's just nothing. You can't make money on tobacco. You can't make money on anything.
To get by, he raises goats and lives off his land, hardly the life of a drug kingpin. But in 2009, he was one of more than 600 marijuana growers arrested by Lieutenant Roper's team.
They got me on the ground, and the one was standing on my head with an AR-15 automatic assault rifle pointed at my head.
He was charged with cultivating 150 marijuana plants, a federal offense that carries a sentence of 5 to 40 years in prison, something he says he